hope this works.
I'm back in LA. I'm making my weekly trip up here, it seems like. Were you laughing? Because what we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Tired of LA?
Yes.
You're getting over LA.
Tell me about it.
Told you, man.
Talk to me.
Was at the coffee shop, our local coffee shop.
How long did it take you to get here?
Well, I
be honest.
was cruising to 2 hours and 15 minutes. I can do that driving an hour and 30 minutes normally.
Okay. But
when I got close to a little bit in
not too
Orange
bad.
County, I hit traffic really bad at the airport, LAX, up to the 90,
Sure.
cutting into Marina Del Rey.
Yeah, that's
that
horrible.
was, but dude, go to get my morning coffee at the spot right down the street. And this is why we moved. I'm over these people here that are just so self-involved. They have no time for anyone else. They're entitled. This guy walks up that was behind me and just grabs someone else's coffee.
No.
Earbuds in, of course, acting like he's too busy to deal with anyone else. And the girl kind of like comes up and is like, "Hey, that's mine." And he just continues to walk. Just later.
What?
That's my. I also had this coffee. I also had a latte, so this must be mine.
Oh.
So I'm over it.
Wow.
Over it.
That's
especially
that's
here,
ruthless.
especially this part of LA.
No, that's ruthless.
Tech bubble, Silicon Beach,
What does that bring in?
douches.
Douches. Is this sea-level people? Or is it...
No, this is Z level people.
Okay.
Most that
Do they manage something?
they manage their checkbook probably, but
Mm.
no, a lot of them are they're creators. Or I have a new project that I'm working on.
Right.
Or
I'm working on a blog.
I'm working on something big.
It's a big blog. It's nothing you can know about.
You know what annoys me maybe more than anything when I go to these coffee shops? Because I do work a lot at coffee shops. Is the people that have like team, like they bring in a team to work. I've witnessed this at Deus. There'll be a guy, I forgot what he does. I think
Is that real?
I think he owns like a little marketing firm. He would bring in, but they were always like new subcontracted people because you could tell he kind of had to always teach them a little bit of his processes. But there'd be like 2 to 3 people he'd bring in. This is a public cafe that he's like running a team at a public cafe while they're working on stuff. And he's like helping manage what they're doing. And he's doing some other stuff. But you could tell it's not like the same, because I would never see the same people working with them. I've seen people have FaceTime meetings. You don't see that. I've never seen this anywhere else but in LA. Maybe San Francisco is probably like that, and New York, but I've never seen it anywhere else.
At a coffee shop.
FaceTime meetings. Computer open, FaceTime meetings. It's crazy.
So what kind of what
I've had people look at me
are
weird.
these like Shopify
Probably.
stores, you think?
Probably. A little bit of that.
Mm.
Content creators.
Wow.
But I've seen people literally look at me weird when Nico's in there and he's maybe causing a little bit of ruckus and being maybe a little bit loud or a little bit louder than maybe people would want it to be. But
Sure.
it's a coffee shop. It's a public space. I get dirty looks like, I'm working here.
No way.
Then go to your fucking office.
No way. What?
Yep.
That's so messed up.
I'm over it.
Because, well, like everyone was a fucking child. Everyone was that screaming baby.
I never get that
We
too.
just
When
always
people
forget.
kind of look at like with a kid, right? They look at you weird
Sure, yeah.
for your kid doing something. Nothing crazy, just like being a kid.
Sure.
It's like you were this kid once. We all went through it.
Yes.
So
What the hell?
that's my rant.
No, that's so messed up though.
My rant's over.
That is literally, you were a crying little baby at probably a worse place, at a library.
Yeah. He never even cries at these places. He's just like, he loves anything with an engine. So when he's at Deus, he sees motorcycles and freaks out
What's
and
he
thinks
do?
he's
Does he
just running
clap?
around like a maniac,
That's so
loving
funny.
it, loving life. And
He
then
just sends it.
there's dogs everywhere and people bring their dogs and he loves dogs. So he's checking out the dogs. And it's always funny to see people that like bring a dog to a public place like that, but don't want anyone to interact with their dog. Like, then leave your dog at home.
What an unbridled enthusiasm to just cause a big scene,
and
but be excited about the randomest shit
and give 0 fucks.
Yeah. But then society like tries to shape you into like, no, don't act out like that.
Right.
But that's so cool. Keep running it.
Keep running. Oh, we
try
to
make a scene,
contain it a little bit to where it's not too crazy, but
That's
we let him go, man. He's
that's so fun.
why restrict the joy?
Yeah. Does it ever tighten up just naturally with psychology? Do you think like as it develops, maybe babies like start to less and less like do that?
I think that's in the hands of the parents. I think I think if you start at an early age shutting it down, and to each their own. I'm never going to tell a parent how to parent, but
yeah.
And our view is to kind of harness that energy and turn it into good. When you have that enthusiasm and that personality, it may seem overwhelming when they don't know how to control it, but I'm not going to stop it so I can look like a better parent in front of other people.
Yeah.
When that may turn into something later down the road where the kid has social issues or doesn't like to play with others or, So I'd rather him run amok a little bit and us teach him the situations when that's acceptable and what's not acceptable than just to always shut it down.
All right, so let me gauge your level of on the scale of like not giving a fuckery about causing a scene, which is that's so beautiful. I want you to run that all the way there. But I want to know like the max. Like let's just say the Oscars were last night, so this is the first time I've ever watched the Oscars before.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a whole performance. There's so many, popular A-list people all there in that theater.
By the way,
imagine they're doing an announcement for the maybe you're like 2 hours into it. So it's maybe some of the audio mixers and they're hanging on to every word. And for some reason, you're at the red carpet.
And little Nico.
And little Nico goes sending it out there on like into the audience, loud, crying, and everyone's like stone quiet.
Well, not crying. Like that's one thing.
Okay,
that's different.
Or like excitement. Like total unbridled enthusiasm. Like loves it.
Yeah.
It's probably like a really cool scene.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Like especially the celebrities. Don't take yourself too seriously. Oh, the pose. Oh, for the cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, you ruined my photo, little kid.
Right.
Like, get over yourself. I wouldn't apologize.
I love it.
I maybe say like if he like ran into someone, I would say sorry. But if I wouldn't apologize for him having excitement.
Yeah.
I think that's something, is something that should be harnessed and turned into positivity when you get to an age that, you can find excitement in some of the most mundane and dull things, So I think maybe that's a big issue with kids in school these days is they don't find excitement in learning new things. So who knows? I'm not an expert on that by far, not even close. I didn't read a single parenting book, so this is all just what I think. But
I think that's probably the better move.
Yeah.
Don't read a parenting book. I know that sounds crazy at first, but then you just go off of instinct.
Well, you gotta remember, most of the parenting books are written by people
that are in society's norms.
No. They've written it from their own experience.
That's true.
It's not based off science. There are some scientific
but multiple
books.
experiences, and they've probably led a lot of people.
Or some of it's literally one experience, and they may get information from other people, but
Really?
I think the real famous one, and this is the only book I really read any chapters of, was Raising Bébé, which is about a American woman that moved and lived in France and found out a different way to kind of raise her kid, a European French style. Okay. It has to do a lot with sleep training and social interactions and everything. Again, that's not based off science. That's based off of her experience, right? And her knowledge from that experience. Now, that's great to kind of have a broader understanding or have someone's opinion.
Sure.
But I'm not going to raise my kid based off of someone else's experience with their kid. completely different in a completely different environment.
Sure. It'd be
So
nice
it's
to
good
go
to have
and do
that base of knowledge and understanding,
Sure.
but I'm not going to, oh, yeah, that worked for this one lady, so it must work for me, you know? So,
Right. And just go off of purely like, this is the way, follow the way.
right.
Yeah.
Follow me down this path.
That's very true. There's so many books that like allude to like their own experience that shapes like, I chose this other path, like you can too.
Yeah.
And it's like, so am I choosing your path?
Right.
Or am I leaning into my own instincts? I don't know.
Well, I think.
What's the message?
Well, I think some of the books they kind of tend to lead you away from leaning into your own instincts.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, because the only reason you bring up an anecdotal part about something is to like show you like, oh, look, I've experienced it too.
Right.
So and
there are I mean, I know there's books out there that do kind of try to get you to lean into your own experiences, but I just find
those are niche.
And I find a lot of them, and the science ones are good. I just didn't read them, but there's some scientific ones that are pretty good about why you should do certain things. But again, I just think as individuals, very few things you can put down that are universal that work that you're like, this is going to work for everyone. It's no different than like the people are like, oh, if you see on the internet all the time, like the morning routine that all billionaires do.
Sure.
Like not all billionaires, not all millionaires, not all C-level executives
and it doesn't really
have
matter.
the same morning routine. You're full of shit. You're just trying, it's kind of that
You're
same
just
thing.
associating.
Yeah. Like I know some C-level executives that don't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed it firsthand. So it's like, great. Some of them do it. That's cool. That doesn't mean,
Some of them don't YouTube it either.
No, and some people do need that in their life to help get them on the right path, right? Maybe they do have a hard time. I think there's this famous Navy SEAL general or whatever. He said, everyone should make their bed in the morning. And the reason for that is
that Jocko?
No, it's not Jocko. It's someone else. But the reason for that is, and why they do it and why they're so particular about it in the military is because you then start your day off by finishing a task. Yeah. You've successfully done something that only takes a few minutes.
Right.
And you can start your day with that kind of positive, that positivity to say, you know what, I already completed a task. So yes, I'm going to face harder challenges today, but I know that I can complete a task today.
Right. Can I just take a turn that talking about, there's so many ads and posts, like especially for business-minded people, like entrepreneurs, to read a bunch of books. Like here's my book list, and like, all CEOs read 60 books a year, like whatever the stats are. It's ridiculous because it shouldn't be talking to you about you need to read. It's like you should just be doing that, and then it's your decision that kind of like shapes how you roll with things. You interpret these books differently, and that's really the takeaways, is like how you interpret a book and how that fits into your worldview. You might snatch on to something, and follow that path, or you might decide like the creator's way and like, okay, that's cool, he followed his way, but like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lean into my own experiences.
Well, the funny thing about that is most of the people that are really influential around the world on a macro level, right, are guys that did it their own way, that looked at things that were impossible, right, and said, I don't think it is. Let me go down this path and figure out why people say it's impossible, and let me see if it is or if it's not. It may be impossible, but let me go down the path and figure out the why of why it's impossible, and can we make it possible, and what it takes to make it possible. Is it physically possible?
Listen, right now, I'm like, my racing career, as it were, what it was, I finished prototype racing, I had wins, and then I kind of just stopped racing for a year.
Yeah.
And I was working on a company, and, I was looking for budget, and I kind of just fell out of the way. And now I'm in the second year of like going into not having funding and like, what the hell am I even pursuing now? As you kind of like, you're not riding the wave of momentum. You kind of like, you take a peek up, that wave kind of passes. There could be another wave that you latch onto. So that's where I'm at. And then I drove off-road racing. And I was literally, the thought was like, okay, I think a lot of people say that off-road racing, just coming from road racing, like a road racing background, you would say that it's really dangerous out there. Like, they're just playing in the fucking desert.
Right.
You know, those guys are batshit crazy and they're fucking fast, you know, and maybe you could, but probably not. Like, you know, good luck. But when I went out there and drove it, it's like, no, it's not. The whole sport, it looks like some of the rollovers are like dangerous and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Baja 1000 is like second and third gear, you know, and it's like very controlled, and it's like going through first gear stuff, crawling
Right.
over some rocks, navigating over rock crawling. There's other times when you go fast, but it's like, really, if you don't get through any of the slow speed stuff, you will not even come close to winning.
Right.
You know, and that's like, what, you're going to go a mile an hour quicker than someone?
Right.
So I think there's a lot more tact involved in the 1000. And like, that was my whole thing, is like, whoa, if you approach this as a more like overview way of looking at it, like instead of, you know, just being fastest everywhere, just like get through the shit that really you can't be much quicker than anyone else. You know, it's pretty close. Find out how to get through the fast stuff. Okay, you can still lift. You're going to lose nothing. Like,
Right.
you know, even through the fast stuff, it's like, yeah, if you go a little bit slower and don't risk it, whatever. Like, because if you get stuck somewhere slow, forget it. Your race is over. So you can just hang into like a top 3 just by doing that. And I thought, wow, like I want to try to be the best off-road racer. It was really fun.
So you're leaning into
that
off-road racing.
And I'm willing for that idea to completely obliterate in my face. I'm excited for that to happen, actually. Because I know it's a silly idea. Like it's not that, like, sure, I could race. I've done road racing my whole life, you know? Why would I do off-road racing? I get it.
So the return, what we discussed the other night, the return to open wheel racing in the F3 series is done.
Right.
We're not exploring that. Are we still exploring that?
As soon as I texted you, you said the number. I'm like, I'm out. I like, get the fuck out of here.
I could be wrong. I
I
remember talking to someone last year about it. And I think that's the number. I think the F3 car is like a little bit more than double what Formula 4 is. It's still less than Pro Mazda, or whatever they call it now, Pro 2000.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think kind of what we were talking about just before starting this is it will be interesting to see with that new scholarship. And for people that aren't listening, that maybe aren't up to speed, Honda just announced that they are going to provide. Jump in.
I think, tell your number. And we'll get back to the Honda thing, but say the number you told me.
I think it's like 400,000.
That hits hard.
But that's what USF 2000 is to win.
I think
How's that?
can do. It's 6 races, and one of them is a unknown to be announced.
We talked about what those costs
5
are.
Races. I think you can do that season for $150K. I think you could do that.
No way.
Yes.
You can barely do F4 for that.
Why? But F4 with like a fuck ton of testing. It's like
a normal.
First of all, don't wreck.
Normal budget for F4 is anywhere from 125 to 200, depending on how much testing you're doing. 150 is about the average. So, no, you're not doing F3 for that.
Yes.
No.
I think so.
Well, then go buy a car. Go do it. How much does an engineer cost for those races?
I could talk to Eric Purcell about engineering for me.
So you're going to call in favors?
No, I mean, he'll have a price.
What's the day rate?
He'll have a price.
What's the day rate of a top junior Formula engineer? $1,000 a day? $2,000 a day?
There's no way that I don't think he's like in F3 engineering right now. He's doing like Formula Mazdas and stuff. So this would be.
That's not what I'm asking.
This would be
what's
a little
the
bit
cost?
more. Like,
let's do the math.
To the weekend.
Let's break it down. What's the cost to buy the car?
I have no idea.
See? So you're trying to spit out all these facts.
$75,000.
Definitely not.
Of course.
Definitely more than that.
Why?
Well, the
prototypes are way more expensive.
The F4 car is all in once you really have it ready to hit on track is like, no, it's like 65, 70.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think the F3 is probably like 120. It's
that sounds about right.
Anywhere from 75.
So you're gonna buy that.
to-
Okay. So you're already almost at your budget limit for the year.
Right, but look, if you're buying a car, that's an investment as a team. We talked about this too.
Still a depreciating asset.
I
though.
hate that when teams will.
We did talk about this.
Yeah, we talked about this over text. It's like you can't be a team
and put the
start
burden.
being a team and then being like, hey guys, we have a team. Boop, 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 boop. And then you get a couple drivers and you're like, great, we got 2 drivers. We're going and buying 2 cars.
It's an asset to them.
It's like, oh, the budget's $35K. Well, when you break it down, $8K is going to paying for the race car that we just bought. And it's
they're putting the depreciation on the customer, which is crazy.
Yeah, and you end up paying for a race car that they will have the assets to at
close
the end.
to it. Yeah, close to it.
And they get it for free.
That's why I know a few people in
which
like
means a gain of
Indy
120.
Lights and stuff that went through the route of buying a car for the team, especially when it's a great opportunity when they switch to a new car and you bring the car so that the team doesn't have that upfront cost. And then you can work a deal out for much lesser price because then at the end of the year, they either get the car for free, depending on what deal you worked out, or for years to come, they're renting the car and you can make some of the money back.
So you're saying as a driver, you can buy the car and hold it for the team?
No, I know people that have done that in junior formula racing where, say, the team was a 3-car team, but they had interest in going to 4, but they didn't really have the capital to go out to buy a car in hopes to getting a 4th driver. But the 4th driver comes in and says, I'm going to take that cost. I'm going to take that. So, but now I need a deal, right?
So they buy the car.
They buy the car.
Yeah.
Get it, maybe pay for it to be completely
I've known a couple
track ready.
Yeah.
And they can save some money in the long run because they can either sell it back to the team, sell it on the open market, rent it, lease it for the years after, and make money back on it. You can save a little bit of money doing it that way. So
yeah, I know of a UK driver who's doing like Formula Renault that was doing something like that.
So
their own like father-son way of doing it.
So back to the scholarship, I think it's pretty cool because it gives a different path forward outside of the road to Indy to make it into Indy Lights, which is what, $1.3 million. Mm-hmm. Now, what's weird is in the release that, well, just say $1 million plus, right? $1 million and change.
It's got to be.
So now in the press release, it was very vague. Kind of just said they would provide or help you race Indy Lights, or you'd race in Indy Lights. Doesn't say if you get a certain amount of money. It doesn't say if you're going to be beholden to be with a certain team, which would be a big problem in my eyes. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's one of those things where if you don't have the budget, it's great, but it also can be career ending if you don't have the budget and you go with a shitty team, and you could have done 4 races with Andretti if they had a car opener or someone else, kind of like the Telis deal, right? Telis didn't have the money, selected the races that he could do, got some help. Now he has a full-time sports car ride. Okay, he's not an IndyCar where he hoped he'd be, but he now has a fully paid ride, or at least he's racing for free, one of the two. I highly doubt he's bringing money.
Did he take a sponsor to it?
To what, the sports car?
Yeah.
No, I think he just was able to showcase his talent. He already had a name because of the Road to Indy stuff.
Yeah.
And the Team USA. And like I talked to someone else that's been part of that whole program, part of once you're kind of in that little bubble of Team USA and and being a top Road to Indy star, there are guys that come out of the woodworks that try to help you stay in that program.
Yeah.
Once you've kind of proven yourself to be a race winner and they don't want to see you kind of fall by the wayside, there's some people in the industry that really start to step up. So it will be interesting to see if it's you're going to be with, and like we were talking about, we need to find out who is a Honda team in IndyCar that maybe also has an Indy Lights program.
Sure.
Maybe it is. It's like, okay, cool. We're going to help subsidize on the back end in your IndyCar program with engine leasing, but you're going to give us an Indy Lights ride for $500,000, not $1 million.
Yeah.
And we can throw $500,000 towards the budget. So it'll be interesting to see. It's cool because I think it's a step to keep people from going into USF a year after to go straight into F3. It's going to help build that F3 program for sure. And I think it's going to do it right away. I think there'll be some drivers that maybe rethought going into Pro 2000 or even USF 2000 to go, whoa, wait a minute. I can almost skip a year now. I can skip a year or two if I have that success. And I know a couple of drivers that are already looking to do it. They still have to find the money, but F3 could be an interesting category this year. I know some teams have already committed to 1 or 2 more cars, so you could see a grid of 15 to 20 F3s, which would be solid. That would be solid.
It definitely, it's very pertinent, that scholarship announcement. There was a group of guys that are fielding up for something like an opportunity like that.
Oh yeah,
where it comes in from the side and offers the same scholarship money to get into Indy Lights.
Well, think about it. If you're in that Pro 2000, and I've heard budgets of $700,000, and you can come in and do it for $200,000 to $300,000. You're crazy. $200,000 to $300,000 less, and put together a proper testing schedule. Be with a great team. You know, it's going to help some of these other teams, like a good example is like Kiwi Motorsports that only does F4 to maybe be able to do F3 because now there's more drivers interested and it's more feasible because now they can maybe run a 2-car, 3-car team instead of just a 1-car team. Mm-hmm. So it'll be and they have a little bit more confidence than buying the cars and waiting for the drivers. You know, there's going to be more drivers hopefully showing interest.
Yeah.
So I think it's the right foot forward because I think that $700,000 mark to race the Pro 2000 is a joke. I think it's way too expensive for that level of Formula car racing, especially in America. So I'm excited to see it. Really excited to see it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
I can see your brain working. You're still trying to figure out a way to make it happen that you can race in it.
No, I'm thinking maybe 225. I'm thinking
what can you commit to right now? Nothing.
Not a lot. Not a lot. It's just, you know what's the interesting thing too? When you get to a point, like I missed out on that wave of Road to Indy success stream, you know, and like enough to be in a, I don't know, just competitive, you know, in a top 3 championship spot. Like I kind of was my last year. I was in 3rd, but it was fringe, you know?
Yeah.
We had engines explode.
It's hard.
It should have been, I mean, it was a 3rd place for sure. We can get into that on a later day. But it was like, I literally had 4 or 5 engine explosions on like a limited 6 race calendar. It was like really bad.
Right.
But I was like 3rd up until the last race to the last engine blew. And it ruined it. So whatever. But I missed out on the wave a little bit. And so then you have this act you can play. Like you can be kind of the Formula car driver that doesn't have the budget, find a way to get some sponsor to pick it up, or get into like a different form, get into like, I don't know, global rallycross, big move, you know? Like do
global
something.
Rallycross is non-existent.
I know, but you could.
It was a horrible move.
You could have done that though.
I know a driver that wasted 2 years of his career going down that
Who
path.
is it?
I don't want to name names.
Okay, yeah.
But
yes.
I know a driver that wasted solid 2 years of his career.
Yes.
And I still think he'll make it because he's super talented.
Sure.
But the perception of him is different now because he's entering Formula car racing.
I've never understood that. Yeah.
He's entering Formula car racing as an experienced driver. So when people look at him, they're like, well, yeah, you should be kicking, but you're racing against kids that are younger than you, that have way less experience than you. Yes, you did in a different form, but you have still experience in a car.
Sure.
So, and then when he gets to that point, he's going to be an older guy trying to go into IndyCar, and it's going to be harder. So I'm hoping that it doesn't affect him too much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
The talent's obviously there. I know that for sure. So it'll be interesting to see. But you're right. You know, moving into different forms, and you know, this is actually kind of a good segue because we're going to be talking to Dane Cameron here in a little bit.
Sure.
And he's a perfect example of someone that came up through the ladder, won everything, just stand out. And then for a while was like lost, didn't know. And we can touch on this a little bit. Hopefully he'll be willing to talk about it a little bit.
Wow.
He didn't have a ride.
Didn't he win Star Mazda championship?
Yeah. With like stupid low budget. He told me once what they did it on. Okay,
Ricky's told me. He was my.
He comes from a pretty famous American family of engineers and race team owners. So, he kind of had that going and helping, kind of like a Colin Brown, where, having your dad being a famous engineer definitely helped accelerate that. But the talent was always there. But he told me the number that he did for that championship winning Star Mazda, Pro Mazda championship.
Yeah. You
would laugh at how low it was.
Really?
Just pulling all your resources together. But he dominated. And was a dominating force in Indy Lights when he ran, or Atlantic, I guess it was back then. I guess he ran Atlantic, not Indy Lights. Dominating force in Atlantic, and just nothing came of it for an IndyCar ride.
Really?
And like we talked about off air recently, he's, in my eyes, probably the most underrated top American in racing right now. And for the last couple of years. It's great to see him with Penske. Be interesting to see if he still has any aspirations to race IndyCar. I think I've talked to him in the past where he kind of like, it's gone and dusted. There's no reason to think about it.
Really? Yeah, he's got to be smart about that.
It's looking like now he's going to have a chance to go race at Le Mans because of what's been announced with the ACO. And if he stays with Penske, they've shown interest to be able to race in Le Mans. So it's going to be very interesting, his path over there, because he's still super young. We'll have to ask him.
But I think obviously going to transition to the LMDH, right?
I think so.
Within the hypercar system.
Yeah.
Which we touched on that last podcast.
Well, and this is going to be a great example because it's a guy that's gone all the way up from Daytona prototypes to the DPIs to LMP2s, PCs. He's done everything in prototype racing except really LMP1. So it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on the hypercar, if he's got anything in the works to hopefully try to do some hypercar stuff. But he's a guy, I'm telling you, he's a guy that we're going to be watching for years and years to come.
Yeah.
For lots of championships, lots of race wins. And I think when we look back at it, we'll say 20, 30 years down the road, he's going to be one of those new names of a Scott Pruitt, of a Andy Lally, of Oberlin, like those kind of names in American sports car racing.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it too. So his dad is Ricky Cameron, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. And then Steve Cameron
is his uncle.
Is his uncle.
Yeah.
And so he grew up with them involved in trench and racing, right?
Yep.
Like working for IndyCar teams?
Yep.
Right. So when he was going through I don't know, what did he do before Star Mazda?
I think he did USF 2000.
Or was it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember he did Team USA.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I think he did it back when they did the Formula Palmer Audi stuff. Or I think they did. We'll have to ask him, but I know when they did the Formula Palmer Audi stuff, because I always thought that was weird how, and I understand it may be budget constraints, but you have drivers that race at a higher level than F1600.
Yeah.
They get selected and go do F1600, and the Formula Ford Festival in Walter Hayes is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
And they're going and doing that instead of something like you get one race in Italian F4 or Formula Renault or something. I thought would be a little bit more beneficial for your career.
Were you ever considered for Team USA?
Yeah, but I was too old. I had some people on the back end that were former winners that were trying to help. My problem was I didn't race enough in Formula cars consistently because I never did a full year championship. So when I was doing the Skip Barber National stuff, when people were still getting selected from that, I was only doing select races. And I won a couple, but they didn't care. And then when I was racing full time, I had a few guys that were former winners that were trying to help, but thought I was too old. And then a couple years later, someone my age at that point,
how old?
I was 24. And they didn't, which I understand, the program's there for young lads. And I started car racing a little bit later than 15, 16 years old. So I get it. I I wouldn't say I was ever deserving of it. So
Yeah. I wonder if
I think if I would have raced the whole Skip Barber National Series that year, because I think in that year, I think I did 3 races. As of 5, I had 3 races, 2 races a weekend, so 6. I think I had 3 or 4 poles, 2 race wins, and never finished worse than 5th. And was on the podium almost every race. So it would have been I think I would have had a good shot at the title that year.
Yeah.
Just based off, the 3 out of 6, 7 events that they had, 8 events that they had on the calendar. And they were all tracks I'd never been to, really. So
yeah,
that was good.
I wonder if this is a similar thing that happened with me in Team USA. It's like I was just a little bit too old for when I came into it.
Yeah. I'm not sure, even if I would have been selected for the tryout, I think that time in my life I was a little too outspoken.
Yeah,
too much of a personality.
I think I was
kind of like what we're talking about, and I kind of want to dive into a little bit more of like I'm bored with the race car drivers these days.
I started yapping my trap early on.
Yeah, they got me in some trouble.
Yeah, I wonder if it did me.
I lost an opportunity, not an opportunity. I got myself in trouble in a series. Not yapping, but like just something.
Speaking your mind.
Sometimes you need to learn to shut up and listen. Right. And just maybe your opinion isn't needed right now. And when I was in my, I would say even up until I was like 25, 26, I'm still outspoken, but I think I'm a way better listener now than I was back then. And I'd give my opinion, or I would say things that maybe just didn't need to be said. I probably rubbed some people the wrong way. I wasn't cocky. Was always confident. It was never about that. It was never about like how good I thought I was.
Yeah, right.
But there was maybe just situations where, you're in a driver's meeting and they have you have an opinion of how things should be going, and you speak up where it's like, maybe it's not time for you to speak up, right? You're not a famous IndyCar driver that has a resume that you can kind of speak up.
Right. Maybe just shut up.
I don't regret it because that's who I am and who I was and who I always will be.
I'd never be like
that. I definitely probably said things that it's like, why? You didn't need to say anything. Just shut up and drive.
Yeah, like stop.
Just stop. So, but
do you think that was your ultimate thing?
No, my ultimate thing was my dedication to it.
Right.
For sure. That's not, I mean, I wasn't willing to put in the off-track work that was needed for someone that didn't have the budget.
You're saying you weren't?
No. Oh no. I know what it takes, and I didn't have what it takes off the track.
Really?
For sure. No. I think now I do, but back then I think I looked at it as, oh, my talent should be good enough, or I was told no so many times by potential sponsors or even sponsors I thought I was close enough to that should have been able to at least help out a little bit, or scared of no, or scared to take that step. I remember always getting like cotton mouth when I'd like just about to talk to like, someone that could possibly do something for me financially. So, and I've overcome that a lot. I think I'm a pretty good public speaker.
What do you mean cotton mouth?
Like you literally start to like choke up, and then like you lose the saliva in your mouth. So it's like you have trouble speaking. And I would always get like nervous. Like I think I was pretty good at hiding it, but I remember perfect example is when I had the thing in Austria with Red Bull, and I remember sitting pretty much face to face like this with Helmut, and just locked up, and he probably saw it. I thought I probably was hiding it pretty good, but I guarantee he saw it.
Yeah.
And I just know it wasn't just that, but it's like it's like when you hear someone that, like when I was doing sports cars, you would hear of someone that is interested in you driving with them or whatnot, and you're afraid to make that call because you're afraid of the no, or you're afraid that it's going to be another situation where they ask for money, and then you just don't want to tell them you don't have money, and you just don't want to get. And a lot of it was that. A lot of it was just, I could have sat, like we talked about Charlie Kimball in the last one. The kid, one thing you can never take away from that kid is his dedication.
Yeah.
I'd hear stories when I was at IU, and he was kind of coming up. He's a little bit older than me, but coming up through the hours he would spend in the gym and then straight on to phone calls and emails, reaching out to anyone and everyone, making cold calls left and right, connecting the dots. I was horrible at it.
Wow.
Horrible. So I've always said in business, I feel like I can sell pretty much anything, but I can't sell myself.
Yeah. I wonder, I've definitely had times where I've responded like that too.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's hard.
For sure.
But I didn't work out a lot when I was younger. Even then, when I didn't start to work out, like my best shape of my life was right at the end when I stopped racing. So in like 11, 12, was the best shape of my life. But before that, I never worked out. Oh. And this was right when the working out thing was becoming a big deal. And I was like, I don't need to. But it just shows that it was like that. Yeah. I didn't have that. And I think I got to a point where it was like, it's not the end all be all for me.
No, but
it's not like there's other things in life I enjoy. It's not
the part that I'm saying that is like the going and talking to like a who this or that, or talking on the phone with someone that might be it could be an opportunity. Right. It's almost like a test drive with you as a person.
Yep.
And you kind of maybe don't like sway the conversation in the right way. And like, you're not upfront about you as an individual, maybe a little bit more just, you got to put on this like face, like,
right.
You got to be good. And cotton mouth, and you're just,
oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's fine. You feel like you hide it. Okay. But yeah, I feel like it could be also a numbers thing, like the more.
Oh, for sure. It's just like dating, man.
Yeah.
Dating here in LA.
Yeah.
Not that I've experienced because I was engaged before I came here, but
any type of relationship that you pursue,
It is a numbers game. I mean, the more people you're able to connect with, interact with, the more opportunities that are going to arise.
Sure.
I mean,
just get in their mind.
That was the other thing. I was at a point where I didn't want to go to the racetrack unless I was racing.
Yeah.
And it was the dumbest thing as a driver that's looking for a ride, as Oliver talked about.
Same.
Is the dumbest thing you can do. But I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go there.
Go to even local races.
Shake hands.
They go to Sonoma.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go.
Yep.
I'd miss it. What? Why?
Yeah.
Why would I not go?
Yeah. I remember, every year,
Obviously,
especially in sports car racing, the big thing is, if you don't have a ride, you better be at the Roar. And before it was the Roar, it was just like the whatever, like Daytona test days or whatnot. But I remember going there, and years after, I'd be like, I don't have a ride this year. Or like 2009 was a perfect example when I did the NASCAR stuff or the modified stuff. Is I could have gone to Daytona. It was a 6-hour drive. I didn't have to get on a plane. I had my own car. I had money to put in the gas tank. I had money for a hotel room. I had friends down there if I could sleep with if I needed to. But no. Is that dedication?
It's also like, I think, do you want to do that? Because there's different appealing things about racing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you kind of, maybe the effort wasn't there because that wasn't your whispering thought of racing. You thought maybe less of that opportunity, and you're looking for either the mecca thing that you want to do, which you can't do because it takes ultra funding or something that's insurmountable. Then you can go that route, but maybe you just don't fully buy into it.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely times where it was like why am I going to go down there and waste my time?
Even if you get
looking for get a ride in a shitty car that you're just going to put around in 10th.
Yeah. Do nothing. Like really, if you're not winning.
Right. And
what are you there for?
And I think I got to a point.
That's what I don't really.
Where that was difficult to swallow.
That's why I don't like pursuing those things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know. Like, is that good for putting around in 10th?
But again, there is value in that, because if it's like I tell these drivers these days, you're either all in or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you're not all in and your parents don't have the budget to send you all the way up through. Might as well just stop. Don't waste the money.
Yeah.
You got to be all in. This is the only way you're going to be successful. You
Yeah.
may get a little bit of opportunities, right? Like I got a little bit. I had some great opportunities. I raced for numerous years.
Yeah.
But I visioned myself being in a higher level, and to get there, I wasn't willing to take those other steps.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I should have been every PCA, every vintage race at Road Atlanta. I should have been up, should have been shaking hands, looking to coach people. And I didn't.
Right.
Didn't.
Same.
So,
Same.
you know, and that's that dedication that I
But
know
at the end of the
that
day,
you got to
did you
have.
want to sports car race
Yes. I loved sports car racing.
more than
Open wheel?
yeah.
No. But
Oh,
I
okay,
love
okay,
no, but I'm a competitive person.
Okay.
I love racing. I knew the open wheel thing was done.
Okay.
There was no opportunity. There was never I never thought, oh, but maybe I could get into a F2000 car. Never.
Really? Why?
Never once, because I knew the budget wasn't there I could maybe do one race. That wasn't going to lead to anything.
I see.
Where I could do lots of races in the beginning, right? In the sports car stuff when I first moved over to sports car racing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of get stuck into this like, oh, I just race these STGS style cars.
Right.
You know, how do I get into a GT?
Do I have any other
how do
experience? Like,
how do
can
I
I
get
drive
that
something
experience?
else?
It's like, what is it? There's I think it's from a movie recently or a TV show where the person's like, they're like, oh, you've never worked in the fashion industry before? And she's like, no. And the late hiring is like, well, we need someone in the fashion industry. And she's like, yeah, but if I don't, how am I supposed to get experience in the fashion industry
if I can't get
experience in the fashion industry?
Right.
So it's like that.
It's like getting into SAG.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh.
Like to get a job, you have to have a SAG card.
Right.
So it's like what? You have to get hired for something else. Well, you can't get hired unless you have a SAG card. But if you do it like this, you know, an extra or something, if you're like an extra for...
You have enough speaking.
And you get picked.
I got my SAG. Well, I used to have my SAG card.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you went after it. You played the system.
No,
Maybe
I just did it enough at that point that I could have it.
You did what?
When I was younger.
Stunt stuff?
No.
What'd you do?
That's a hard industry to get into. You know that?
What'd you do? How
I did some modeling and acting when I was younger. So, but
what is that news?
No, we don't need to talk about that.
Chris, tell us about it. No, come on.
No, we're not talking about no
modeling and acting.
Yes,
tell me more.
We share a lot.
Chris,
no, I was never like you. I was never a big timer like you. In Europe.
I was never a big timer.
I saw it.
It was literally I got one job.
You posted a lot about that one job then.
I know.
Where were we going? No, but the stunt industry. That's hard to get into. Really hard. It's like really close knit family to get into. You got to know certain people.
Yeah. Why is it like that?
I think it's just there's
like
no need. I think that's the best way to put it. There is not enough jobs
to just
ton of people to do it, that the people that are already in it want to keep it for themselves because that's how you make money.
Yeah,
right?
They know it's a little bit of buku bucks.
Yes. So if you start bringing in people, that starts taking jobs away from them.
They may know too that being a stunt man itself, like for certain jobs, really isn't that dangerous or hard or risky at all.
And some of it's not.
Some of it's not. I mean, I think a large majority, besides like,
the really good ones make bank.
Yeah.
Bank. I don't know him, but I know of one guy that's a big in the motorcycle stunt world. And it's LA bank, but he's making a really good living. Because I got a house in like Calabasas.
Yeah, I bet.
Lives great cars.
I bet. It's a lot of money. They make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I don't really know that much about stunt driving at all, actually. I really don't.
Nor do I.
You don't?
Nor do I. I know someone. I have a buddy that did a lot of stunt driving in Disney World in Orlando.
Okay.
They do those big car chase. You can go watch these car chases and everything. Sometimes they're tied with like Fast and the Furious or something.
Yeah.
But he was a stunt driver there. Super cool. Super talented.
Yeah.
I don't think he really worked much in the movie industry because I don't think he could get. I could be wrong, but I don't think he did much in the movie industry. So who knows? But
what do you think what level of skill do you think being in stunt driving?
I think it's no different than
racing, like that.
Similar. I think it's. Could I go do what those guys do in a car? Stunt driving right now? No, but I could learn how to do it.
Yeah,
because I know how to drive a car.
The right car. Yeah. Well, and it's you saw what they were doing.
It's like what we talked about at the PECLA stuff, the PEC Porsche Experience Center stuff. You know, there's things that
they can do on there that's like really talented.
Well, you're like, you go see someone, you're like, whoa, and then you see him go on to the racetrack porch, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a weird disconnect. And then you go try to do
on the racetrack.
You'd see some of the instructors where the bigger course.
Oh,
you'd see the lines they drive, and you're like, you have no concept.
Right.
But then you go see them do some of the other stuff, and you're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Or I'm not able to do that.
Sure.
And then you practice it, and you're like, oh, actually, I just needed to practice it.
Yeah,
it's a different skill set, is what I'm saying.
Driving things too, the way some things are done, looks really impossibly hard.
Right.
And it's actually more of like learning how to kickflip. You know, it's just like there's like some steps. You feel it, and then listen. I never learned how to kickflip.
I think I've landed, and I skated for a long time. I was always afraid to get hurt for racing, so I never fully committed to it.
Yeah.
But I think I've landed 2 or 3 kickflips my entire life.
I
still skateboard.
Yeah.
I still ride skateboard every other day.
No way.
I have a skateboard that I ride.
I used to skateboard though too,
yeah.
And I could never commit to a kickflip though. I could never commit.
Just afraid of breaking my wrist, and I can't race.
I remember learning for so long though. I was trying so hard. I could do pop shove it's all day, baby. Pop shove it.
See, I think I've only landed maybe 1 pop shove it.
Really?
Yeah, I was horrible at those.
Loved it.
So, anyways,
we're
getting close to that time. Let's we got to get Dane on the call here. So, guys, we're gonna reach out to Dane here and talk to him about his recent Bathurst adventure. His first time in Bathurst. He's got a lot to talk about there, and hopefully, we'll talk a little bit about his path.
I want to learn about his path, his story of.
Because I think it's a unique. I think it's actually a unique one, and it's a story that will be played out in some ways, similar ways, for eternity in racing. But it is unique, and like I said, man, he's my number one American sports car driver. I think you put him in IndyCar, I think he's going whooping up on Newgarden and those guys.
Ooh, wow!
Talking smack right now, but
wow,
I'm a fan. I'm a fanboy.
Yeah.
So
did you race against him?
No, but when he lived in Atlanta, I lived in Atlanta. We trained 3-4 days a week together.
Gotcha.
And spent a lot of time on the sim and together and stuff. And
that's cool.
Super, super talented.
Is that where
the one thing? It was his Sellers.
Where did he grow up?
Where did he grow up? Northern California.
Okay, so why was he in Atlanta?
He moved to out east.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I think just for the sports car stuff. I think just being closer to all that. I think it is. Yeah. You ever hear people talk about Team ATL in the sports car world?
Yeah.
Yeah. Atlanta has an absurd amount of top sports car drivers that live there.
Right.
And like really high level guys.
Why?
I think having rode Atlanta there, it's close to Florida. I don't know. There is a community there.
It's definitely true. The sports car
There's
industry,
a lot of sports car. Like a lot.
It's East Coast.
There's
a
East Coast.
couple. There's
no,
a couple
it's
teams.
East Coast. It's East Coast.
Well, like, Cameron Racing.
No, but most of the drivers, I think.
Most of the drivers.
I think a lot of East Coast. Yeah.
Okay, but like Dane, would you consider him an East Coaster?
Now he lives in Charlotte.
Okay, but he grew up in. So
yeah.
he was.
But that's like me. I grew up in Northern California. I lived in Atlanta for a long time.
You grew up in Northern California. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I grew up in the Bay Area.
I can't even believe that though. It doesn't make sense. When did you move to Atlanta?
I lived in Fremont for 10 years. Then moved to Atlanta in end of 95.
Okay, how old were you?
10. I lived in California for 10 years and then moved to...
Okay, but that wasn't... Okay, so it wasn't like a decision though. So you moved...
No, I didn't make that. I made the decision to move back here.
Yeah, right. As a 10-year-old, you're not making...
I'm not. Hey,
shots.
Mom, Dad, we're moving to Atlanta. Why?
That's where the
racing scene is. Let's go.
Unbridled. You have to pursue it with me.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we're going to give Dane a call here and talk to him a little bit, guys.
All right.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Technology has been made.
There we go. That's better. Okay. So should we start?
Hello, Dane.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
I like it.
Man, look at all those trophies behind you.
Yeah, look at all that stuff.
Yeah. It's what happens when you get married. Then your wife makes you buy fancy cabinets because she doesn't like all your shit piling up on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. No helmets outside the office. All the trophies and helmets must go in the office.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I know Chantel, when we first moved in together, she let me get away with it. And then once we got like a nicer place, she was like, yeah, so no, those are, you can find somewhere else to put those.
Yeah.
Put them in the garage.
Yeah. And Dane knows Chantel, so he knows how opinionated she can be. Oh, that's too good. So how's the jet lag? Are you over the Australian jet lag? Yeah.
What day is it? Maybe not. Yeah, almost a week. So it wasn't too bad for sure. The way coming back was worse than going down there because you come back in the middle of the day kind of thing for sure. But no, it was cool, man. Awesome trip. Really enjoyed it. Cool country. Never been before. Definitely recommend going if you haven't been.
Now, that's your first time doing Bathurst. Did you have any expectations going in, and were anything exceed your expectations? Did you spend much time? I know, we used to spend a lot of time on the sim, but did you spend a lot of time on the sim trying to at least get to remember what corner comes after next? What was the preparation like for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Nothing, too crazy. I still think it's just better to kind of get there, but yeah, for sure, a place that's that sort of complex and also long, like you don't get a ton of laps there. I was pretty surprised how short the whole practice deal was. We think we had 3 hours, so 3 1-hour sessions. And we had 3 drivers, and it's a 2-minute, 5 lap or so. So like, It's not really a ton of track time.
You're lucky if you're getting 10, 15 laps in before quali.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was kind of shocked by that. I thought we'd have maybe a little bit more seat time. But yeah, I did a little bit of sim stuff before we went. Tried to watch some video. Felt like I had a pretty good idea, and it's fairly simple for the most part until you crest the hill and you come down from the top. So I wasn't too worried about kind of the bottom and all that, but for sure there's the flow that you kind of take to get down the hill and the way you use the brakes to come down the hill. You kind of just have to see it and get some laps and get some confidence to kind of have the right rhythm coming down the hill. It's kind of unlike any other track in this country for sure. I didn't really have a ton of expectations for the weekend because the car had never been. I had never been. We had 3 guys in the car. Only Renger had been before, and that was like 4 years ago. So we weren't too sure what to expect. The team had never been either, so we were pretty behind. So I was kind of like, well, we'll just sort of see how it goes, have some fun, check the track out, and we'll figure out how competitive we are once we get there. I wasn't going there thinking we need to be top 5 or whatever it was. There was almost 30 GT3 cars. It was kind of like, we'll just sort of figure it out when we get there and sort of see how we get on and try to keep her out of the fence for the most part.
Did we get intimate with the wall at all?
No. We kept close proximity, but a little bit of a buffer.
Wow.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's probably like the slowest lap at a new track. Probably down the hill. Okay,
no shit.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not gonna be that guy.
Yeah, you can't be.
Yeah, just try not to get run over from the guys that've been there for years.
God, yeah, I know. Jesus.
Now, you kind of have an interesting. We were talking beforehand, kind of your come up in motorsports, but currently you kind of have an interesting career because not many prototype guys still race in GT, and not many GT guys get to race in prototype racing. And kind of with the relationship you have with Honda and Acura, you've kind of been called in to do a lot of this GT racing with the new NSX. How is it? I mean, obviously you're really experienced, but how is it going back and forth, especially in the season when you're kind of getting everything going with the prototype stuff, to go back and forth and you're like, oh, that's right, this is how this tire performs, or the car is this much different, and like you said, a lot of these races, you don't get much track time, especially if you're with a gentleman driver or with a driver a little bit less experienced than you. You may give up a lot of that track time just because you're experienced, and you're going to kind of rely on that. So how's that kind of been?
Yeah, it's been the perfect kind of supplement to the prototype program for sure. That's kind of the the main deal. But at the end of the day, that's only 10 races. So it's not really a lot of driving. And there's sometimes with the IMSA schedule, there's some pretty big breaks. So after I sort of did the first year at Penske, I started kind of pushing a little bit more with HPD to say, hey, if there's anything else around that you need somebody for, or some GT stuff, whatever it is, I'm happy to do it. Obviously have some pretty good experience in GT3 and GT cars before. Right. So, I knew I could sort of do it. But to do both in the year is a little bit kind of strange, especially GT3 cars with the ABS. That's a whole different kind of ball game to drive. One car that's carbon brake and one car that's ABS is totally different. And it's like almost 1,000 pounds different brake pressure sort of between the two cars. So the first few times were kind of weird for sure to go back and forth. And now I've done it enough after, kind of first part of last year when I first started doing it, to where I kind of know what each car requires a little bit, and you kind of switch over automatically. Maybe the first 2 laps are a little bit weird in each car. You feel a little bit different, just seating position wise and everything else. And then you kind of settle in. So it kind of ends up wrapping into just your normal.
Yeah. Once you have that muscle memory.
Yeah. It ends up sort of just dropping right into like, okay, it's my 5 laps to get up to speed at whatever track you're at, whether it's new or not. And you kind of settle right in otherwise. But no, it's been super cool to add that program. And, last year was North American based, and this year is going to be kind of primarily the intercontinental stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. Some new tracks, obviously Bathurst already, and should be Spa as well coming up. So I'm pretty excited for that. Never been there as well. So it's That's cool awesome. I did Kailami as well last year in South Africa. So it's been really cool to kind of stay in the family a little bit, but add some killer races and events to the calendar.
Start checking off bucket list races.
Sure.
And tracks. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Now, Dane, can you talk a little bit about how you kind of ended up in sports car racing, kind of like where, your career was going? You were doing open wheel and you were really, really, really good. And then the change came over to sports car racing. Can you just talk a little bit about like how you, I guess, navigated that, and being that you won a lot of racing and you were Indy Lights, or was it Atlantics at the time?
Yeah, it was former Atlantic. Yeah. They were coexisting at that time, but yeah.
And I mean, winning a series like that is a pretty big deal. And then to kind of the transition over and kind of where you're at now, where you're fighting for getting seat time. You're racing for Penske, which is a huge deal. But then you're still wanting seat time to still race and still drive like GT3 cars. Can you talk a little bit about like how you just wound up there?
Yeah, everybody's story is different and everybody's kind of progression is different. And we had some help with what was the Mazda scholarship deal at the time, and that got us up to Foreign Atlantic, which was a level that we never would have been able to afford with the resources that we had. So that was super cool. But at that time, that was 2008. So that was also the same year that the IRL and Champ Car merger happened. So everything was just sort of, the landscape there was changing a lot, and basically Atlantics was kind of going away. We were never going to be able to afford to do Indy Lights, or even after you did Indy Lights, it seemed pretty normal that for most people, you're going to have to come up with some money for those first couple of years in IndyCar. So it just seemed kind of unrealistic that to ever have that much money to be able to do it, whether you felt like you were good enough or not. It was just kind of out of the question.
How did you compare like Atlantics to Indy Lights, like preparation car wise, like to go to IndyCar?
I think we were pretty equal, and there was a lot of guys that came from the Atlantic side with Hinchcliffe. He was there for a number of years. Matos was there, things like that. So there was plenty of guys that did it. It was just more, I guess I wasn't so dead set that I had to be an IndyCar driver. I just wanted to be a race car driver, and I wanted to get paid to drive cars. So it just seemed like there was some more opportunities in the world of sports cars. So while I would have loved to have stayed in open wheel and got to IndyCar, and it just didn't seem like that was going to happen. So we sort of thought, okay, well, you're kind of at the bit of the crossroads, and we can either jump ship now and try to get a head start while I'm a little bit younger and get a couple of years under the belt in sports cars where, the teams maybe put a little bit more priority on the experience and having done the races. So it's like, okay, well, we can probably scrape together a year or two worth of funding if we need to for to do the Grand Am type stuff as it was at the time, and get that experience and really try to be a guy who could make a lifelong career in sports cars. So it definitely was hard because it was, kind of your dream, and all you knew was open wheel. So it's definitely a big transition to go over to sports cars. But now it's definitely paying off with top flight ride.
I was about to say it's turned out pretty well.
That's so cool.
When I was still living in Atlanta, and when Dane kind of first moved to Atlanta, was a little bit just after that transition, and I remember us talking a lot of, just like, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I think a lot of people in the racing world maybe thought you were in a different position of where you were in life, or with maybe money, or what, or how everything was going down, and you're just like, dude, I don't even know if I'm gonna race. Like, this isn't, yes, I had all this pedigree from the open wheel stuff, but that doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah.
And
wow.
It's cool to see that you are where kind of everyone knew you should be, which is at the top echelon of racing. And now being with Penske and with with someone as your teammate as Juan Pablo is really cool. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I know Juan pretty well, and I know he is a special person and an awesome guy. But he is interesting, and he is someone that has a ton of self-belief, as he should. But how has that relationship been? Because I mean, I can imagine, the team's stacked as it is, but I think if people were to look, the general person were to look at being teamed up with Castroneves or being teamed up with Juan Pablo, you'd want Castroneves as your teammate, because you're still trying to prove yourself, right? I think you're never done. Yeah, you're
just to stay employed. You always feel like you have to a little bit,
right? Exactly. Yeah. But how was that? I mean, I know you guys have a great relationship, but how was that in the beginning?
Yeah. I think, like you said at the beginning, it takes some time, even when you come from sports cars. I think even the kids who come from open wheel, there's a little stigma, a little bit, that superhero kind of thing, or maybe not focused on how the races work or the length of the races. So it takes some time, I think, to get that experience and improve yourself in a different area, and really just make that other network of people who know you and trust you and kind of like you to drive their cars. So that definitely took some time, and I spent a lot of time in small cars and small teams and all that. So no, it's really nice now to be in sort of championship winning stuff on a more regular basis.
Right.
It's great. And when you go to a place like Penske, just sort of pushes it up to another notch, another level for sure, where we always want to be, a place like this. And they did a good job, I think, of bringing sort of Ricky and I, who were the guys more experienced in sports cars, and at that time had won the last 2 prototype championships, and then obviously sort of the 2 house names in Elio and Juan. So for sure, at first I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I didn't know the guy at all. I'd never even talked to him once before I signed on, and Cindric told me I was going to be with him. So I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, he kind of has a reputation, right, which he definitely likes having that reputation of being kind of hard to work with or whatever, But I think when it's a whole different deal when you're sharing a car with him and you guys are sort of together. It definitely took him a couple of races, I think, to understand the sports car stuff full time. Obviously, he's been there and had success, but when you're ingrained in it all the time and sharing all the time, that takes a little bit for him. So when he started to figure it out, that you needed to depend on each other a little bit, and that he could sort of trust me, and that I was quick, and then vice versa, and that I gave him respect, and then earned some respect from him for sure. So it definitely took probably the better part of that first year to feel each other out a little bit, and see where we're going to go. And then by the time we got to that second half of that year, it was no problem at all. And we started to agree more on the car setup and things like that, and trust the feedback from each other and that type of thing. And then that really ramped into the season that we had last year, which was super strong. But I didn't know what to expect at all when I was signed up with him, and thought it was going to be honestly kind of a pain in the ass.
Right.
It's turned out to be super, super fun, and wouldn't have it any other way than to be with the big guy. And
that's cool.
Been really, really stout, and been really impressed with. I thought he would just be a guy who would be really strong and really fast, and that was kind of it, and just didn't really care much about the car or whatever, or just drive anything. But the way his mind works with racing, and the way he understands racing, and the technical side of the car and handling things like that, I was pretty impressed with, and that's been pretty fun to see.
That's cool. Now, being with Penske, and I'm sure with the engineering staff that they have, you guys can really get the car dialed to, like you said, kind of a compromise of what both of you want in a car. How do you guys differ? Like you said, he's essentially coming from, you know, an IndyCar Formula One background, and you know, most of your experience is coming from a sports car background. So what you like out of a car, you know, did you like a softer car than him, where he kind of liked a stiffer feel and you had to adjust? I know you came from a Mazda background, so you are used to a stiffer car, but what were the differences between what you guys look for in a car?
It wasn't, well, yeah, at first it was maybe a little further away. I think if he's really happy, it's probably just a touch too loose for me. And if I'm really happy, it's like a little too understeery for him.
Yeah.
That was kind of the biggest thing. Not really too different as far as like, earth shattering stuff as far as it could be this or that. It was just, he likes it to turn kind of pretty strong in the middle. And I like to have maybe a little more platform on the front. So I feel like I can charge a thing maybe. But as we got through that first year, and the calendar doesn't change much in IMSA. So we sort of figured out like, okay, Juan's really good at sort of XYZ tracks. Dane's really good at ABC tracks. And then it kind of became no problem of like, well, this is your track. You're going to do most of the driving. So you can kind of take a little bit more of what you want, or you're going to need to qualify this weekend or blah, blah, blah. So you kind of do your thing for that. And yeah, the engineer's been super good about tuning us up for qualifying and making sure that each guy has sort of what they need, and with tire pressures and all that kind of little itty bitty stuff. That was probably been the biggest thing. But it really, the more time that we spend together, and I think the more time that he's in sports cars, the more we sort of end up pretty similar with what we want. And he's been really good because he's so experienced that he's got no problem for looking down the road for the big picture and the championship and what it takes for a race car. So we've really gotten along really well with that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Recent big news in Penske world: Scott McLaughlin just signed to do, he did his test in Sebring. It went really well. And now he's going to do the IndyCar race, the road course IndyCar race at Indy. Does that tickle your pickle at all? That you're like, hey guys, remember I have an open wheel background. Can I do an IndyCar race too?
Yeah, I'd love to have a go. I mean, it's a cool deal for him. Obviously, he's been killing it in Australia and making everybody look silly for the last couple of years down there. So it's a cool little reward for him to have a bit of fun and try something different for sure. So I think it went pretty well. We'll see how he goes at the race. It's definitely been pretty big news, and I think everyone will be watching for sure to see how he gets on. I think he's in the car again at COTA this week for a few more days. So we'll see how it goes, and definitely would love to have a go at some point, just at least if nothing else for the picture on the wall for when I'm fat and slow. That we just one day you got to drive an IndyCar and
you tell your grandkids, I did race IndyCar or I did drive an IndyCar race.
Exactly. I almost made it, so.
So let's talk a little bit about the outlook for the year. Obviously, last year we started to see Mazda start to kind of get their act together, and a couple of the your former team that you raced with are still strong, and they have a strong lineup. But that Mazda, man, if they can keep it on track, that car seems like it's gonna be hard to beat this year. How do you guys have a look? I mean, I'm sure there's some tracks that you think or you guys have an advantage, or you're gonna have to pounce at those tracks, and some tracks are gonna have an advantage, and you're gonna have to maybe damage control. But how do you see the season going?
Yeah, that's kind of how last year played out. There's some places that are really good for our package. The high-speed corner places are super good for our balance. Caddies are really good anywhere with big track movements, big torquey engine. There's some places that are good for us, some places that are less good. Daytona is kind of one of the places that's not so good for us. So even though it didn't go great to get fourth place points, is really not so bad, better than we have the last couple of years. So Mazda's been getting better and better, and they'll be a threat. They kind of had a lot of help to get caught up, which is good for the sport, good for the series to have another manufacturer there. So I think they've caught up enough. I don't think they need to at this point. It's another sort of two cars that can win the race for sure, and really about any car in the grid now can win. And JDC's kind of turned the wick up with a pro pairing and a bit more cash over there. So there's kind of another horse in the race for sure. So for us, I think it'll be probably pretty similar to last year. obviously there's really been no changes to anything. So it's going to be more about, for us, we started off so poorly at Daytona and Sebring and then kind of had to come from behind. So I think really what will be key for us will be to have a good Sebring and try not to bleed any more points than we did at Daytona with the 4th place. If we can come out of there with the win or podium, we'll be in a lot better shape than we were the year before. And once we got sort of into Long Beach, we were super strong. So we did too much poor results to start the year. So I think we'll be about the same, more or less.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then also the big announcement recently is the hypercars, and IMSA and the ACO kind of coming together to kind of have a platform that's going to allow for everyone to really race internationally. Is that kind of something that excites you, that kind of maybe gives you a little bit more opportunity? Because I know Penske's even said, he's like, this is our opportunity to kind of start to go race at Le Mans. We've never really had that opportunity. Do you kind of see that? Is that an aspiration that you're like, to race some of these big, not WEC, but these big races for LMP racing?
Yeah, I think Le Mans is still a big goal for me. I haven't made it over there yet. So every year we try to put a program together and go, but it's a pretty tough place to get. So that's kind of the ideal situation, where you could have your full-time IMSA program and still run Le Mans every year with your same team, crew, car, everything. So it's pretty huge, honestly, for the sport. You could hear it kind of coming and going throughout the last couple of years that it was going to happen, not going to happen. So it's pretty major that they finally were able to get something done in that direction. So I think still a lot of work to do on what the actual rule is going to be, how it's all going to play out. I think who builds what car and what kind of, BOP nonsense they sort of have to jump through. But I think it's going to be crazy, man. I think the amount of manufacturers that are sort of waiting in the wings, that were waiting for this to happen.
Right.
I think just even this morning, I think it was Ferrari was making some noise that they were like, hey, this is pretty cool. Like, we're into this. I think BMW, Lamborghini, Hyundai, Ford,
Wow.
There's, half a dozen manufacturers that were waiting for a global platform to jump on board. So pretty exciting for sure. I think Acura as well is excited by it. So, I think now just the hard work for sure for the series to figure out how to make it actual reality. But it's super exciting, I think, to be in prototype right now, to see, potentially more manufacturers coming, and for the first time in I don't even know how many years, decades really, where you could run a prototype car anywhere in the world and win overall races. So it's pretty huge.
So is that a future partnership where something like the LMDH, I think that's what it's called, right? LMDH. Would that be something that you'd race at, like, just the 24 Hours of Le Mans, or could you go to like any WC race? Like, what's kind of the thought behind it?
I think the idea is that would sort of be the spec, and that's what you would race in IMSA. So, and then you would be able to take your stuff and go race at Le Mans. And if you wanted to go do whatever it is, however many hours at Silverstone, then you could, kind of thing. So, and those guys could come race at Sebring and come race at Watkins, Petit Le Mans, whatever else they wanted to do. So if it was full IMSA or full WEC, or picking out the high points or whatever races you want to do, I think that's the intention of it, which would be pretty awesome to kind of globetrot around the world and kind of cherry pick all the best races. Would be pretty killer.
It's kind of like they saw what the GT3 spec that they've come up with has done to GT racing around the world, and they're like, wait a minute, there's something here. There's something of this standardized, all the manufacturers build to this kind of standard.
Yeah.
You can take this car anywhere in the world. You may be on a different tire, but you can take the car and go pretty much anywhere in the world and race all these races. And you can see it. The GT3 fields these days are the gnarliest of gnarly fields in racing there is, period. Because every car has 2, 3, 4 drivers, depending on how big the race is. And you're at the biggest races. I remember Spa, the 24 Hours of Spa last year, the qualifying was one of the craziest qualifying sessions I've ever seen.
Like go-kart racing, man.
It is.
So Ringer qualified at Bathurst, and I think if he was, we were slow because we had an engine problem, but we were 24th or something. And I think if we were 6/10 faster, we were like in the top 10. Like, it was crazy. Where that's the gap between cars sometimes in prototype racing.
Right.
The GT3 thing is pretty wild for sure. So I think that, and I think they saw the IMSA DPi thing was pretty successful, and manufacturers liked it. It's pretty small investment relative to, what your Audis and Peugeots and Toyotas were spending. So it gets it into two-digit millions instead of three. So I think that's a pretty enticing deal for the European car companies to be able to win Le Mans overall for, $10 or $15 million instead of 200 is a whole different ballgame,
Yeah, because I even said this year is the smallest LMP1 field they've ever had in the history of LMP1 racing.
Wow.
In WC. I mean, it's like 2 cars. It's horrible. So
yeah, I think it's for sure going to save. And even IMSA stuff is a little bit lighter this year for sure. Lost a few cars, so I think something like that was really necessary to save prototype racing at a non-spec level, I guess. Two, that kind of thing, that's easy, that's always around. But as a manufacturer-based prototype deal, for sure, I think if this goes the right way, it'll almost save the sport to a certain extent.
That's cool. Wow. Now we'll end with this, but we talked earlier a little bit about Honda making the announcement. You kind of have a link to this, but Honda making an announcement that if you win the new F3 series, then they're entering their 3rd year, that you will get essentially budget to race in Indy Lights. You've gone through the whole ladder system. We talk a lot about drivers spending too much time in the lower series or going into a series that they really don't need to go into. How do you see, because we talk a lot about younger drivers and trying to help these younger drivers, maybe some advice that you give to kids, if the opportunities are there, do you need to go through 4 different series? Do you need to spend 2 years in an F4 car? Kind of what are your thought process on, giving yourself the best value for your buck, but also not getting kind of caught in the whole ladder system of spending too much time in a specific series maybe?
And I think too, it's important to say like scholarship chasing a little bit. I think that kind of exists now where you look at the ladder system, there's scholarships for every step on the ladder. So it's really enticing to probably just follow that route,
Yeah.
So how do you kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's sort of what we tried to do was kind of the same. And I guess what we always tried to take was, where are we going to be at the end of the year, was sort of always what my dad and I sort of looked at, was what's going to happen when we get to the end. Like, okay, great, we're going to go do this championship. We can afford it, no problem. But if we win it, do we get a high five? And then you got to start all over again looking for money for the next year? That doesn't really do you any good.
Right.
You can pick a series like now with this F3 thing, where you can go there, you can come up with a budget for it, or you get a bit of help if you do well in F4, I think, don't you? So then that's something that's, one, attainable cost-wise, and then 2, you get to the end of it and you're going to Indy Lights. I mean, that's invaluable because there's, there's not many people that can afford to write that check for $1.5 million or whatever it is to go to Indy Lights. But you can come up with, I don't even know what the budget is for F3, you would probably know, Chris, but I'm sure it's a lot easier to scrape together the couple hundred grand or whatever it is to F3. And then knowing that you're going to be able to win yourself to the next level was what we tried to do. And then I guess with the progressing, it sort of depended on how it went. I guess I only ended up staying 1 year kind of at every rung, but it was sort of more due to cost than anything else. It ended up just being a better deal to move up to the next thing. And I think as long as you're kind of in the top 2 or 3 in that category anyway, and if there's no big, carrot at the end of it, then you might as well sort of go to the next thing and kind of move on to the next group of guys, more competitive, faster car kind of thing. Keep progressing. You don't want to end up, be 25 and on your 5th year of Indy Lights or whatever, for sure, So that's kind of how we always tried to do it in that sense. But yeah, really the big thing was always like, well, okay, what's going to happen at the end of the year? And there was one point where I was going to go race in Europe full time in 2007, I think it was, and do Palmer Audi, because they had there was some F2 scholarship or something, I think, at that point, not F2 up there now, but the other one that was around for a few years. But the scholarship wasn't as good as the one that Mazda was offering here in the States. And the budget was less, so we elected to stay and do Star Mazda and kind of push to try to win that championship and get the free ride the next year to do, Formula Atlantic. And really, you can't really make it happen, I don't think, without some of these scholarships for sure.
No, we talked to Oliver Askew on our last podcast, and he said the same thing. He just was like, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't have the scholarship money. Like, it just wasn't possible. And he talked a little bit about, like, he's like, I had no other option. There was no plan B, you know? It's like,
he's a great example for that for sure, you know?
So, and he's obviously a Team USA guy, and, you know, went through, and he's, it'll be interesting to see how he does this season in his rookie year. So yeah.
I think there's a fine line between staying in the junior formula forever and ripping through it so fast that when you get to the top, you're not really ready, you know? So if you've done what Oliver's done and you've won your way through everything, then what's the point of staying when you've already won and you have the scholarship for sure. But when you see guys that sort of jump, you know, head first or start in F3 and spend 4 years or whatever, that's really not ideal. You probably should have gone and done F4, learned something and kind of bagged another championship type of thing. But there's definitely, I think, a big rush these days to get up the ladder as fast as possible for some reason. Definitely the kind of Verstappen effect for sure. When everybody sees it, you can get there at 18 or 17 or whatever he was. That makes everybody else want to do it. And I mean, I don't really think that's necessary. I mean, I think you're better off to be more prepared. And there's definitely every level you're going to learn something new. And there's a reason why there's gaps between the cars in terms of pace and adjustability and things like that. It's to sort of feed it to you in a way that you can handle, I think, for sure. And there was times where I jumped in prototype cars. I did some prototype stuff when I was still in Star Mazda and things like that, and I definitely did not feel ready at that time to be racing in that kind of environment for sure. So going back and staying in single seaters and then doing my time really in smaller GT programs really made me a lot more complete and a lot more confident now to be in in the high level programs that I'm in now.
Wow. That's cool. How many years did you spend in kind of like Grand Am level sports cars?
I was there. I was primarily on that side. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I was kind of over there bouncing back and forth between prototype and GT, sort of depending on the year and on the program until that championship merged in 2014 and became one, and then became IMSA. So I did 1 or 2 races on the American Le Mans side, but for whatever reason, just wasn't getting as much traction as I was on the Grand Am side.
Yeah, gotcha.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you taking your time out. I know you're a busy guy, got a family. Tell your wife I said hello. And we'll hopefully see you at the races soon, and good luck. And Sebring's next for you guys, right?
Yeah. So we'll do Sebring test in about a week, and then mid-March for the 12 hours down there, and then I think Long Beach is after that, and then start gearing up for Spa as well. So pretty excited for that trip.
Well, hopefully I'm in town for Long Beach. I normally am not, but if I'm in Long Beach, I'll be sure to come down and say hi and maybe grab a brew after the race or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, dudes.
All right.
Anytime.
Later.
See you.
All right, see ya.
There you go. There's a little conversation with Dane Cameron, Penske LMP IMSA driver. Dane's just a cool cat, man. He's just a cool cat, super professional, knows his shit. And him and Juan Pablo again this year are just going to be a threat every single race.
Dude, I'm a big fan of Dane Cameron now.
I want to be friends with him.
I knew enough. Yeah, I was like, I want to be friends with him. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's super cool. My unique thing, I totally forgot to bring it up when we were talking, but his dad, Ricky, engineered for me in 2017 Pro Mazda season.
Wow.
And it's so funny, like the way that Dane said, like the car he likes, like something where you can kind of hustle it in. So it's a little bit pushy, just a little bit on the front.
Same way. I need a little bit of understeer on the front just so you have that confidence to really attack the
really
entry.
Send it. And you could just do it all with your foot, with the brake pedal. Get it to turn anyway. But like, I know that Ricky liked to set the car up like that. So it's no like, it makes total sense that like Ricky, the way he likes a car is how, his dad likes to set up cars.
Exactly.
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 So that's cool. It went full circle.
That's cool. Well, guys, thanks again. Make sure you like, subscribe, put some comments in the bottom of who you want to maybe for us to interview coming up. Maybe some topics you guys want us to talk about. But like I said, we're in this thing for the long haul now. So let's keep it moving. Share this with your friends.
Look, we're totally fine with this being a niche audience.
Oh, it's going to stay niche.
It's going to stay niche. You know, we're fine. 100 views on something?
Great.
Whoa.
It's 100 people.
That's 100 people. And like, look, I get it. This is thick information that honestly, like, 95% of people won't listen to this.
No.
Because it's too much investment of time. It's too much.
It's too much.
And it's too deep in racing. I get it. Like those people really aren't going to give a shit. This is just for people that are like pretty in it.
They're in it. Deep.
Pretty in it. But trying to figure like life out a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
like
still figuring out life.
Yeah, but like not just pursuing, I'm going to be a professional race car driver.
Right.
You raced, and that gives you this toolkit to do anything you want. You can keep racing. You can pursue a professional career. You can like get into marketing.
Right.
You can start writing. You can do so many things from it. You could be an engineer. You could build cars. You could do so many different things. So I think that's our niche audience. It's really at like, it's a small number.
Super niche.
It's super niche, but I'm okay with that. It feels good.
That's good. All right. Well, guys, see you again next time. And we need like a sign off. Do we need a sign off? Or should it just like awkwardly end?
I mean, the last one awkwardly ended, but I had to cut it.
I feel like we need to come up with a sign. So if any of you guys have a good sign off that we could do on to the next round.
You got to like ask a question, like something.
Ooh, I like Jesus and Miro. How they always have like what's on your like neon sign, like what would be on your neon sign or something like that.
Right.
Could do something like that.
Yeah, like what message did you put on a billboard?
Yeah.
Your
mazzles of the day, like Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live. We could end with something like that. So
something, yeah. Just bring in some quotes.
We'll think about it. Next episode, we're gonna have a proper way to end the episode.
Until then, we love you guys. Thanks for sticking in there.
Thanks for the love.
You know, the audio might not be perfect,
but we're getting there.
We're getting there.
If you know a sound engineer that needs some school credits,
video too. God damn it.
Holler at your boys.
It takes like it seriously took me like a week to edit the last podcast, and I know it's gonna get like no views. So it's just this like it's a weird ROI.
You definitely wanted to be like, we just aren't gonna post it.
No, I knew we were gonna post it. Oliver, like you got to get that shit out there.
Maybe just post the Oliver interview.
I thought this thing's going.
I need pizza. I need something.
Okay. All right.
Later.
Love you guys.